Hey guys, welcome to the MrMaple Show. We're on location today in Nacogdoches, Texas at Stephen F. Austin University.
Guys, smash that like button. Today is a special one. This is one of the best gardens for Japanese maples in the South. We're here at the Ruby Mize Azalea Garden at Stephen F. Austin University. Get excited. Go ahead and share this video with your gardening friends. They're gonna love it. And make sure you're subscribed here on the MrMaple Show on YouTube.
Guys, we just walked through a huge tunnel of Cascade Falls. That's a weeping bald cypress. Super interesting shot. I love the way this looks. You're gonna absolutely love this garden. There's outstanding maples, azaleas, and so much more. I hope you'll stay tuned. You're gonna be excited for this one.
Hey, I'm standing here with our good friend, Dr. David Creech of SFA Gardens here in Nacogdoches, Texas at Stephen F. Austin University. This garden was a little bit of your brainchild.
Kind of. We've been at it since about 1986. That's the mast arboretum on the other side of Lanana Creek, which is at high watermark right now. We're lucky we hadn't had a flood. So that garden started about 8 or 9 acres in 1986. This garden didn't start till 2000, the Ruby Mize garden. So the trees and shrubs and everything here are 20 plus years old. And then across University Drive, we have the Gala Mize garden, which is another 10 acres. And it started in 2010. So you can see old trees and young trees all the way through as we continue to take over any land that we happen to be nearby.
Well, the thing that I love about the gardens here is, one, you're proving a few different things. That all these plants can grow down here in Texas. There's so many cool woody ornamentals that people can enjoy in their gardens here in a similar setting. And that, you know, there's such diversity in the plant material that people have been growing in the Deep South. And that's one of the things that I love about this garden, because before this, many people might have said, Japanese maples in Texas?
It's true. That's actually true. In the mid 80s, when we started planting maples, I didn't know very much about them, but boys loved them. And there were two available, red and green, and there was no varieties and no cultivars, and most people had a lot of trouble with them in the beginning. But we got very lucky with about 50 Japanese maples, and I didn't know what I was ordering, and they were little tiny 1 gallons grafted from Dell's Maples, I think up in Oregon.
Old Dell Laux.
And basically, we were so excited, the students and I, and we parked them all out in here, and many of them are still here. And the conclusion we have in East Texas, we're in a bottom, and it does flood occasionally, but drainage, and we provide that here in lots of different ways, and certainly plant a lot of them on berms and anywhere we can get a little elevation above the surrounding land. They have done real well here. Remember, this is Texas, and we went through 36 days over 100. We were 110 degrees here. We've had epic freezes, went down to -4. Japanese maples are comfortable in all those kind of settings, and as long as you have a well-established tree, they're tougher than I ever gave them credit for.
And many of these trees have been around for a while as well. And so when we're talking about this, we're talking about specimens in the landscape and garden. Guys, let's go check it out. We're standing with Acer palmatum shiguri bato. This tree is very unique, and this is an amazing specimen here at SFA Gardens. To me, this is a special tree because it's almost a lace leaf, but it's not. It's a matsumuri. So it's really interesting, and it's got a very interesting structure to the leaf, but also an interesting habit.
Now this is one I would love to collect seeds off of. I think it'd be very interesting being a heavy matsumuri. Great shape to this one. This is an older specimen. Now I will say they grow things fast down here in Texas. There's a shorter amount of deciduous time. So the time where the trees are actually dormant is much less than some areas like North Carolina. So you do tend to get things a little bit bigger. Shiguri bato, this is an outstanding specimen here in the Ruby Mize Azalea Garden.
One of the things I like about this tree is it's got this unique spreading out habit, but it's still upright overall. And this gives it this unique shape you're seeing right here, a little more open. This tree is a good, strong grower, extremely hardy. I know Brian Rule, who works for us, he loved this. This is one of his favorite trees, the Shiguri bato. It goes a bright yellow in the fall, a nice clear yellow, and it's just an amazing tree. You know, they just had a bunch of rain here at SFA Gardens, but the name actually means an early rain in the fall is what Shiguri bato actually means. Really cool, really awesomely shaped tree, and a cool structure to the leaf. I'm standing here with Acer palmatum kamagata, a selection by J.D. Varieties, the guy who wrote the book on Japanese maples. This is one of the most heat-tolerant Japanese maples for us in Western North Carolina. It's doing fairly well down here in Texas as well. I like this tree because it's bulletproof. The name kamagata actually means sickle, like a sickle people used to cut grass with, shape. That's because the leaf itself has this unique claw-like habit to it. It gives a fun texture out in the landscape, goes to a bright red in the fall, but the early spring when this thing has some bronzing in it in sunlight is really underrated. I mean, I think this is a really interesting spring interest tree as well. This is one of those trees that J.D. Varieties even noted could be done by rooted cutting for bonsai. I mean, I think that would be a tree that's phenomenally done as a bonsai that many people don't think of as a bonsai tree today. Try kamagata out. Let's go see what other trees are here in the gardens.
Hey,
Watch out.
what are you doing here?
Dude, what are you doing here?
I live here.
You literally live in the lace leaves
No,
here?
I live in Texas. This is my state.
So if you go anywhere with Japanese maples in Texas, Doug McDougall shows up?
1, 2, 3, poof, I'm there.
You say Japanese maples in Texas 3 times fast, Doug McDougall arises from a lace leaf. Have you been hanging out here the whole time since open house?
I didn't even go home. I just been waiting here on y'all to drive by.
That's incredible. All right, let's go catch up. Let's see the rest of the garden, man. Guys, check out this great specimen of Acer palmatum dissectum watnong. This is a great cultivar. This will leaf out kind of a bright pinkish orange in the early spring. Now, a lot of people wonder how watnong and Chantilly lace differ. Chantilly lace is going to be a little bit more umbrella shaped. One of my favorite things about watnong is that it arches up a bit. So this one's going to have a lot of arching up habit to it. Absolutely outstanding tree here. This one could give some of the azaleas in this garden a run for its money in early spring for that orangey pink color to it. I absolutely love this tree. Great golden yellows to oranges in the fall as well. When you see a specimen like this, it's awe-inspiring. Looking great down here in Nacogdoches, Texas. And I absolutely love that it captures that arching habit that is definitive of Acer palmatum dissectum watnong.
When you see a lace leaf that looks as beautiful as the structure as this, chances are it might just be Germaine's Gyration.
Guys, this is my favorite green lace leaf for many reasons. I've called it the Mack truck of Japanese maples. Germaine's Gyration, it gets out there quick. You can have a big tree in your lifetime really quickly with the Germaines, typically 10 by 10 in 10 years. So you're gonna have a tree that looks massive and big and older, and it also has this gyrating habit to it that's absolutely cool. Another synonymous name for this tree is Acer palmatum dissectum contorta. And that's because it gets some contorted branches going on and it makes unique shapes all on its own. This one's gonna make you look like a master pruner and somebody who has an old specimen that maybe was handed down through the generations to you.
Beautiful structure, fast growing habit, a gorgeous orange fall color. This tree has it all. The leaves are even a little bit larger than your typical Verdus or waterfall. An amazing tree for the garden. One of my top Japanese maples, Germaine's Gyration.
Heat tolerant, durable, you're gonna love this one in the landscape. And the best part is, it grows quickly. Now you do need a big spot for this one. I always let people know, Germaine's is gonna outgrow a small area quickly, but if you have space for it, it's gonna give you a tree. It's gonna look like something from the Biltmore house there. It's gonna look like something from Longwood. In a short amount of time, you're gonna get a massive specimen. Guys, I can't say enough great things about Germaine's Gyration. And when you get up and look into one of these, you'll remember it forever because it's a tree you can literally stand in the shade of. You can get up under it, you can interact with it. It's a lace leaf that makes a structure that is completely unforgettable, whether it's in leaf or out of leaf.
I mean, there's enough room under this tree. You could put a bench underneath here and have people eat their lunch in the shade of this Germaine's Gyration. How many lace leaves can you do that with? Not many. You could plant one in your yard and do this.
Check out Germaine's Gyration on Mr. Maple today.
Any guesses what I'm standing underneath? Take your guesses now in the live chat or in the comments below. You're probably guessing this is a Seiryu, but oddly enough, this is Acer palmatum Wu Nishiki. And that's actually where my theory goes with the possible origin of Seiryu. Don't know that for sure, but this is a vigorous upright. It's got a great shape. It's got a Matsumuri leaf deeply divided. It's a strong, vigorous grower that grows so well for so many people. And this tree has a gorgeous red fall color. Sounds a lot like Seiryu to me. Wada Nursery introduced Seiryu in the 1970s and introduced it to the nursery trade. You don't see this one as common in the nursery trade, but it is a phenomenal plant that makes a beautiful tree in the landscape and garden. Jim Sharp found this dwarf Japanese maple in the 1970s. We're talking about Acer palmatum Sharp's pygmy. This is a small, dense, compact dwarf. And this is a really nice specimen, a little more open here in the pine forest at Nacogdoches, Texas, of the Ruby Mize Azalea Garden. But this tree makes a small, dense, compact shape, typically reaching 4 foot by 4 foot or 4 foot by 5 foot in 10 years. It's a pretty hardy little dwarf, often used for bonsai as well. And this is just a beautiful tree for those smaller spaces in the garden. It can go to oranges and reds in the fall. It has a little bit like what you think of like Makawi Atabusa. The leaf is a little closer towards that kamagata we talked about earlier. But this makes just a really unique, special, small tree to use in the garden.
We just ran into another one of my old friends, and maybe my favorite. It's definitely up there. One of my all-time favorite Japanese maples, Acer palmatum shiranami. Now, often I love to ask people, even before the top fives, we would run into people who'd say, hey, what's your favorite Japanese maple? Anytime I talk to one of our mentors or a collector, it was a common question. Now, our mentor, Elizabeth Mundy of Acer Acres, you've heard us talk about a lot, she told us one of her all-time favorites was Acer palmatum shiranami. Now, I had to learn more about it. It's a tree from the 1700s. I've been growing it for over 15 years now because of her suggestion, and I absolutely love the tree. Now, we're a little past its spring splendor, but this one leaves out with some incredible shades of pink, then fading to yellow, and then putting on this green shade. And it's pretty fun because in the fall, it often reverses that yellowish pink to then more of a peachy color late. Absolutely love shiranami. I think it's underrated. It's on the 1700s list, so it's been around for a while, but sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. When you've got something that's so perfect as Acer palmatum shiranami, who needs a new cultivar when you got something like that? And that's coming from me, guys. Absolutely love this tree. Check it out here in the Stephen F. Austin University Gardens. It's here at the Ruby Maze Azalea Garden. Beautiful specimen of Acer palmatum shiranami.
Right now, I'm standing next to one of the most structurally interesting selections that has that reticulated Japanese maple leaf to it. That variegation where you see the veins of the leaf that are extremely prominent. Any guesses? Aka Shikadatsu Sawa. Red snipes flying up from the swamp in the morning. So what this tree basically describes is this unique reticulated variegation. The Japanese were very poetic in their names. Such a really awesome tree. I like this tree because it's a small to mid-sized tree. That really early spring color where you get that pink blush in this is outstanding. But the shape on this tree is probably more significant and more interesting in the garden than even the variegation. I mean, give this tree some protection from the hot afternoon sun, but this tree, the architecturally, how it spreads out and makes this low V shape, really commands your attention and adds that Japanese feel into any garden. I think that's probably the thing we don't talk about least with this tree because it is really unique with its leaf. But the shape on this tree, when you see a mature specimen, it adds something special in the garden. Check this out. Dr. Creech, what are we standing in here right now? What are all these Japanese maples?
Well, it's nostalgia, actually. This is a collection of otohimes that are probably 20 years old, and they were rooted in a class, plant propagation class. And those of you know that these are not easy to root, Japanese maples in general, but one of the things we've learned here is that if you do root them and they're in a good spot, that they get every bit as big as one that's grafted. So I always thought that was a unique piece of information. My thought was originally, Tim, was that the dwarf on its own roots would be even weaker. It needed to be on a vigorous rootstock to make it show its thing. But I think that they adapt to the site, and you can see they're in pretty good shape. And we thought of this. This is where the children's garden, once a year we have a Little Miss Princess tea party. And it's kind of an event for the folks in this community and their granddaughters, and everybody dresses up. The girls dress up as princesses, and so we dress this up as toadstools. We have bubble machines, we have flutes, we have little rabbits, we have ponies, we have the whole 9 yards. And then every young lady gets a little teacup because it's a tea party, and we've been doing that for years and years. And it's not much education involved in it. It's basically just admiring how beautiful your granddaughter or your daughter is, but it has brought a lot of community enthusiasm for the event.
Well, in the process, they get to learn a little bit and see some Japanese maples in the landscape as well. And you said these are about 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, so these things have some really good size and really good age to them as well. And they are a rooted cutting. You know, on a lace leaf, you know, if you tried to root a lace leaf, it is one of the things where they don't really produce roots unless you're grafted. On some of these dwarfs though, originally I thought maybe if you grafted to one, you could have like a dwarfing rootstock. But from everything that we've seen, it seems that, you know, they have about the same vigor as the trees that are grafted on the palmatum, typical palmatum. But for a small little dwarf canopy in here that creates that sort of fairy garden-like effect, I mean, these just make some unique toadstools in the garden with the Acer palmatum autoheme.
It does. We have a lot of the hemes here, and I like all of them. None of them have the kind of splash and go, you know, fire engine red color, but they're still a very beautiful form tree.
A selection from Ghirardelli Nursery in Italy. We've got Acer palmatum Orange Dream. This tree lights up the landscape with some bright yellow colors. If you can push the sunlight a little bit with this tree, you can get even more brighter shades of yellow. You can even get a bleaching effect of yellow across Orange Dream. This is one of the most yellow Japanese maples in the nursery trade, and it is a really nice upright, typically 6 to 8 foot in 10 years. Down here in Texas, these specimens are huge. This is a classic selection. I mean, this is the same nursery that introduced Fire Glow, the same nursery introduced Jordan and Summer Gold later on. This was the original yellow Japanese maple. This is Acer palmatum Orange Dream.
Guys, check out this massive Acer palmatum Kunar pygmy. Now, everything's bigger in Texas, including the Japanese maples. One reason why this one's so big, there is a small amount of dormancy here. So the months of dormancy are much shorter than they are in Oregon or even in Western North Carolina. They're actually gonna be growing these things late into December, and they're gonna be leafing out much earlier, sometimes even in February, giving them a very small dormancy period and a long growing season. Now, that said, this is a massive old Acer palmatum Kunar pygmy. Now, this is an introduction from Yamina Rare Plant Nursery in Australia. This intro was actually found at an Italian restaurant called Kunar. And they saw this growing as a broom and a Japanese maple there. And by grafting it, they got the smaller, more compact version, which is ironic because I'm standing next to this absolute gigantic Godzilla of a plant right here in Kunar pygmy. Rarely ever seen at this age. Now, a lot of the plants in this garden were gifts from Sherwood Aiken. They're very old cultivars that have been around over 40 years. I know when I visited this garden back in 2010, this tree was this large then, so it's been here a long time, and it just keeps showing out. This is an absolute champion of Acer palmatum Kunar pygmy, and fun to see at this kind of size. I love brooms. You get that shortened center node. Really cool to see. They never really stop growing down here in Texas. Like, everything really is bigger, And check out that Kunar pygmy, guys. I doubt you'll ever see one larger than this one right here.
Y'all, we've got a big specimen here of Acer palmatum shana, selection by Dick Wolf of Red Maple Nurseries. He brought us Emperor One. He brought us shana, named after Billy Schwartz's daughter. It was a witch's broom that was found on the University of Villanova's campus in front of the Department of Public Safety building. There's this Acer palmatum atriporium, and then there's this witch's broom about 8 to 9 foot up in the air, just hanging in this huge ball. And right here, this is a specimen of that same witch's broom being grown down here in Nacogdoches, Texas. It's got a brighter picked up red color out here in the landscape. It's growing here in this pine canopy where you get dappled light coming through, and the red color on this is great. It's one of the brighter reds that we're seeing today walking around here in Nacogdoches, Texas. This makes us a good small dwarf tree for your landscape and garden, typically reaching 3 to 4 feet in height and 3 to 4 foot in width in 10 years. Great container plant, great for small spaces in the garden, and it adds that spark of color in the landscape. Acer palmatum Lionheart, a selection from New Zealand of all places, and this is such an amazing red lace leaf. Why do I like Lionheart? Well, it's everything I love about Germaine's Gyration, but in a red lace leaf Japanese maple. You get this really nice upright and then this really open habit, but then you get red color and vigorous growth. This lends itself to having a unique bonsai-esque shape in the landscape and garden. If you're looking to do that floating cloud style pruning on a lace leaf Japanese maple, this is an excellent candidate to start with because it will start to make those plateaus almost naturally by itself. This is a red lace leaf, but in the fall, you can actually get some really nice shades of bold orange out of this to red in the fall. So you can get some really nice oranges out of this, which is really unique to Lionheart itself. Give this tree some space. We're talking 6 to 7 feet in height by 6 to 7 foot in width in 10 years. A little bit bigger than some of your other lace leaves, but this unique habit commands the attention in the garden in a unique way that many of the other red lace leaves don't. So try a Lionheart Japanese maple. I got another question for you. Any guesses what this red dwarf Japanese maple is? Well, it's got a couple names. This is known as Acer palmatum Carless Corner broom. There's actually a shopping center in the Northeast, and it's called Carless Corner, and it's got a Japanese maple there, and this witch's broom was found there. It's also been known under the name of Carl's Corner broom. It's also been known under the name of Mary Catherine. But for a red dwarf Japanese maple, this is an amazing, small little, slow-growing red dwarf. It gives you a picked-up red color in the garden.
All right, y'all, that's a wrap on our video of the Ruby Mize Azalea Garden here at Stephen F. Austin University.
The gardens are plentiful, full of Japanese maples, azaleas, so many cool plants. Come visit this garden, support this garden any way and every way you can.
Dr. Creech is a hoot. You got to come see him in person. He'll give you a personal tour of this place, maybe if you're lucky. It is absolutely outstanding. If you get a chance to come to one of their events, I highly recommend it. It's here in East Texas, and it's a true treasure for Japanese maples for the South. Definitely come check it out.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.